Hi everyone, my name is Heather. I'm going to be sharing a flip through of this tiny little journal that I created. I'm going to be using this as my own journal, and I thought that I would call it my little book of thoughts. So I'm going to flip through it with you really quickly, and then once that is over, you can follow along as it kind of comes together and I create it with you. I'll walk you through the steps of how you can put one together for yourself. It's very simple. So I hope you will enjoy this flip through, and I'll continue talking once that process part starts. To get started making this little journal, I took 7 sheets of paper and I just used little scraps of paper that I loved, and then I folded those in half, and then that will become the signature. So I used mostly ledgers. I liked them all together. I know that that doesn't give a whole lot of room for writing because the ledgers have all of the writing on the paper, but I thought I could be creative whenever I'm using the journal and putting my writing inside. So I loved how the papers, I used varying sizes of papers. I liked how they just sort of peeked out from each other whenever you first look at it. And I'm just taking some embroidery floss and I'm threading it through a little bit down on the top and then coming back in a little bit up from the bottom. So I'm not measuring, I'm just using my eye. And then I'm going to tie a knot, and that's going to be how the journal will stay together. So it's just a really simple little process. The journal itself is very small. It's like 3 inches across in the finished state. It's 3 inches across and 4.5 inches long. So like whenever you use the little scraps of paper, they wouldn't all be that size. I mean, you could make every piece that size, but you can see that I have varying sizes of paper there. The ledgers that I'm using to construct this little journal are some of my very favorite old ledgers. They're so pretty. The script on them is beautiful. And I created a digital kit with a lot of those ledgers. So if you wanted to recreate this journal very similar, you could purchase the kit and then just use the digitals if you really like the ledgers. So I will link that in the description box, and then also any other digitals that I use throughout the video. I'll put the name of the kits that I used below. So now that we have the little journal kind of together, I'm going to be using a piece of lace as the cover, and then once we have that together, we'll be ready to go for, just kind of adding all the little bits to the inside. So I'm just going to glue this piece of lace to the first page in the signature, and then that way, once it's glued onto that page, it will actually become the cover of the journal. So I'm just laying it out here and going to cut it to size and just playing around with it until it looks good to me. So here I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac glue, and I'm just going to tack along the inside of the little flowers to glue that onto the page. And then I'm being really careful with the glue because of that sheer netting. It's hard sometimes with the glue because it can show through. So I'm just going through and gluing on the places where I know I can hide it pretty well. And then I'm going to go back in and tack it down a little further. Sometimes whenever I'm gluing on tulle or netting of some kind, I wipe it with my finger first and then I press down. So that way there's not like a clump of glue there. So now we have the journal together and it looks so cute. I love all the pages, and that lace cover, that very simple lace cover is so pretty. And I really like the pink embroidery floss for the binding. So now I'm just going to go through and add some little bits to the inside. I really like the idea of a bunch of pretty things peeking out of the side. So you'll see me adding just different things. I love that piece of vintage trim there with the rhinestones on it. So I'm just adding it to the top so that you can see it whenever it's closed. I'm taking this little piece of lace and I'm going to make a little pocket on that piece of paper just by gluing down on the left side and then uh, along the bottom. So I'm just playing around with it, seeing where I want to put it, but I end up putting it there on the front. So now you can see how cute all the little tabs are looking along the sides. I love that so much about junk journals. So I'm just taking this little dried fern and putting it into my journal. I I dried it from my garden, I think 2 years ago, and then I just picked little sprigs of my ferns and I put it inside of a book and then just let them dry in there until I'm ready to use them. You should be pretty good to use them in about a month. So if you wanted to uh, dry something, just go ahead and stick it in a book. And I'm not too concerned about whether it's going to break in there. It seems to be pretty sturdy because I'm moving it around pretty good with the glue and just fixing the leaves the best that I can. I'm using, again, the Fabri-Tac glue throughout the journal. I just think it's such a great glue. It just sticks everything down. So now that I have all the tabs peeking out and how I like them, I'm just going to go through and add some different journaling cards and glue some pretty roses down, different things like that. I just wanted to add some pretty things to the inside, but I didn't really want to overdo it too much because this journal is so small. I love using little pieces of vintage clothing for my journals. I like to take and just trim them and cut them up in little pieces, like that little piece right there. So you don't have to use vintage though. Like you can definitely use new. Go to the thrift store and just look around at the party dresses. And a lot of them have, sequins and different things like that. And you can just cut little bits off of them and put them in your journals. It's so pretty. So here I'm just making a tiny little pocket on the bottom of this page with a piece of brown paper, and I stamped it with one of Sam Poole Dates from the past stamp set, and just gonna make a little pocket there to tuck a tag in. So here I'm adding a pin with a rhinestone button and a little dove charm that I had, and just adding it to the bottom of the page there. I think that looks so pretty. So everything is coming together so nicely. It's looking more chunky and so pretty. So here I am adding this glassine bag that I created out of uh what did I create that out of? Tracing paper. I have a video for that, so I'll link that in the description. And then I'm just filling it with some scraps of lined paper, so that way whenever I use the journal, I could take those little pieces of paper and write on them and put them on top of the ledgers since they're kind of busy. So that's what I put in the bag, and then we're just adding a little bit more cards and pretty things. I had this tag in my stash, and it actually is the exact size of the journal, and it's nice and sturdy. So I added some paper to the back, that really pretty rose to the back, and I think it looks so pretty tucked in there even though it's so big, because it kind of adds almost like a backing to the journal. So the journal is all together now. It looks so pretty. I love all the little things peeking out of the sides, and I just love the little tiny journals so much. So I hope that you enjoyed watching me bring this to life, and I hope that it inspires you to create one for yourself. I will see you again next time.